Hey guys, Draco Wulfthorn here, bringing you the story of the man himself, the one who started it all, Draco Wulfthorn. Don't mind that was there before I got the sheet. This is Draco Wulfthorn, my D&D character. I will be reading his story. It's just one page each sleeve. I didn't want to make it like where you had to flip and look at the back. But I think it's about 6 sheets, 6 or 8. So just stay tuned and listen. Draco Wulfthorn. Race: Dragonborn. Color: red. Written by Draco, edited by Unknown. The story is about a Dragonborn being named Draco Wulfthorn. I arrived home after one hard day's work at the catacombs, and I noticed the front door was busted down. I rushed into the house, dagger drawn, and found my wife on the floor. Her broken body was laying still on the floor, without an ounce of breath. I dropped to my knees, also dropping my dagger, scooping her up her lifeless body into my arms. Suddenly I heard a noise behind me. I grabbed my dagger and prepared to attack. When I caught a glimpse of his face, as he looked back at me, I knew who took the life of my beloved away. An old friend that I could tell just by looking at him that there was something sinister inside of him. As I looked into his eyes, I knew he was no longer the good friend I once knew. As I turned and stood to look at him better, he ran and jumped through the window. I sheathed my dagger, turned back to my wife's lifeless body. I took her body to the bedroom, laid her on the bed, kissed her forehead, and I looked to her chest and unhooked the egg tooth necklace that I exchanged with her on our wedding day. I slowly and gently removed it from around her neck and rehooked it around mine. I covered her and made it look as though she were merely sleeping. I began to pack rations, water, and other things, such as my swords, my wife's spell books, and a few other things. I sat down to rest for a minute when I heard some small voice that I did not know say, "Hello, Draco? Are you out there?" Immediately I sat up and asked, I be out here, but where are you, stranger?" The voice answered, "In the basket." So I went to the basket, removed the lid. Nothing was in the basket. I looked at the lid, and there it was, a small, shaking tarantula. I put my hand out, and the tarantula climbed up my hand, and up my arm, and to the horns on my head. "So what's your name?" the tarantula answered in an upset voice as it saw my wife. She called me Madame Arcta. Arcta and I talked about the killer and that I am going to find him and take my revenge. Arcta agreed that we should go and look for him, but not to get revenge. When I had finished packing, I lit a torch and walked out of the front door. Slowly, I turned and threw the torch into the house. As the torch hit the floor, the flames blazed throughout the house. I turned and walked in an angrily way away from the house that was now blazing in flames. I followed the footsteps in the dust and dirt. When I reached the nearest town, it had began to rain. I looked for the nearest inn to rest and to get out of the weather. The first one that I had found was called the Lazy Lizard. As I walked in, a female voice asked, "What can I get you, big man?" I pulled my hood back, careful not to rip it on my horns, and I answered, 5 ales and a bed." She pulled out 5 tankards out and asked as she filled, "You know anything about that house that was burning down south from here?" I answered, "Aye, I do, for it was my house." In a surprised voice, she said, "This is on the house, and the 7th door down the hall is yours for the night." After the 5 ales, I headed down the hall and to the 7th door. I opened the door and tossed my pack on the chair on the right of the door and laid on the bed and shedded a few fiery tears and passed out. When I awoke the next morning, I went down the hall with my pack in one hand. The lady at the bar asked if I wanted some lunch. I looked at her in surprise and said that would be nice. I sat down and ate the meal. When I had finished my meal, I asked her if there was any place that I could buy some leather armor. She answered, "Down the road. It is called the Hiding Hide." I thanked her and left the inn and went down the road to the Hiding Hide. 7 years have passed since my wife's death. Today I am guarding a caravan along with a druid, an elf, and to my surprise, a monk. The monk keeps looking at me nervously. We reached the top of a hill, and we see that the city that we were heading to is being under attack. The caravan driver went on back to the last town, and we went through to the city. The city was under attack by a dragon, and all we could hear were screams. When we entered the city, we found a family being attacked by 6 kobolds, a lizard race about 4 foot tall, and are of a dragonoid race, along with dragonborns. Although they are as weak as a goblin, we took out the goblins. I cut one's head off, the elf killing 2 with 2 arrows at the same time, and the monk did something I have not seen in all my years of travel. He calls it the curb stomp. It destroys that kobold's, well, let's just say his pride. Even though he died from that attack that crushes pride, it took a bit of talking for the family to trust me, and when they did, I carried 2 of the kids, 1 on each shoulder. We went through most of the city without any problems. The monk and the mother of the family helped the injured father, and the druid had the other kid on her back. We came to a corner and we saw about 4 bandits, if I recall. When they saw us, one threw a spear at me, nearly hitting one of the kid's legs on my left side. The spear hit me, but merely fell out of my shoulder. When the bandit came to retrieve his spear, I cut downward into his chest, leaving my sword in his chest before I, like my ancestors before me, breathed red-hot flames into his face till his death. After all the bandits were taken care of, we made our way to the king, where a defensive camp was made and set up to protect the citizens. We left the family at one of the healing camps, and the 4 of us went on to see the king. After talking with the king, I left my newly found allies to return on my journey to find the man that killed my beloved. And that is all. She currently does not have a name, so if anyone has any ideas, please comment below. And the reason why, because most Dragonborns are normally in like a city of Dragonborns or something. Well, she is a blue. That is why. And this is her. She's currently not finished because I didn't want to finish her since her name was not yet picked out. But thank you for listening to my story. If you like these kind of things, I can always make more things like this. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what was your favorite part, and I'll message you back. Thank you. It's Draco, signing off.